Evening YouTube, Parson Rick here. I've had just a heck of a weekend. Yesterday, Saturday, I had 3 weddings to go to. The first one I just had to go to it. The next 2 I did. I performed the service. The first one was 30 minutes to the north. The next one was 30 minutes to the south. And the next one was 65 miles to the west. And they were only a few hours apart, so I was a little stressed out yesterday. Today's been busy too. I just needed to relax a little bit. So I've got my MacPhearson system pipe here. It's loaded up with some rat raised black Mallory. Actually, I've been smoking it for a little bit. I'll probably run out sometime during this video. And I was thinking, well, what can I do to relax just a bit? I got a message from Trevor G. He wants to hear a little bit more Robert's service. So, let's go, shall we? This is the Ballad of How MacPhearson Held the Floor. Probably going to give up on smoking partway through it. It's fairly lengthy. Just got to get in the proper mood. Said President McConaughey to Treasurer McCall, "We ought to have a piper for our next St. Andrew's ball. Yon squawking saxophone gives me the syncopated gripes. I'm sick of jazz. I want to hear the skirling of the pipes." "Alas, it's true," said Tam McCall, "the young folk of today are foxtrot mad and dinna ken a reel from Strathspey Bay. Now what we want's a kilty lad, primed up with Mountain Dew, to strut the floor at supper time and play a lilt or two. In all the north there's only one, and of him I've heard them speak. His name is Jock MacPhearson, and he lives on Boulder Creek. An old-time hard-rock miner and wild and wastrel loon, who spends his nights in glory playing pibrochs to the moon. I'll seek him out, and beyond a doubt, on the next St. Andrew's night, we'll proudly hear the pipes to cheer and charm our appetite." Oh, lads were neat and lassies sweet who graced St. Andrew's ball, but there was none so full of fun as Treasurer McCall. And as Maloney's ragtime band struck up the newest hit, he smiled a smile behind his hand and chuckled, "Wait a bit." And so with many a Celtic snort, with malice in his eye, he watched the merry crowd cavort till supper time drew nigh. Then gleefully he seemed to steal and sought the nugget bar, wherein sat a tartan child as lonely as a star, a huge and hairy highwayman, as hearty as a breeze, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his bagpipes on his knees. "Drink down your Doc and Doris, Jock," cried Treasurer McCall. "The time is ripe to up and pipe, they wait you in the hall. Gird up your loins and grit your teeth, and here's a pint of hooch, to mind you of your native heath. Just put it in your pooch. Play on and on for all you're worth. You'll shame us if you stop. Remember you're of Scottish birth. Keep piping till you drop. I, though a bunch of willy boys, should bluster and implore, for the glory of the Highlands, lad, you've got to hold the floor." The dancers were at supper, and the tables groaned with cheer, when President McConaughey exclaimed, "What do I hear? Methinks it's like a chanter, and it's coming from the hall." "It's Jock MacPhearson tuning up," cried Treasurer McCall. So up they jumped with joys of glee, and gaily hurried forth. Said they, "We never thought to see a piper in the north." Aye, all the lads and lassies' braw went buzzing out like bees, and Jock MacPhearson there they saw, with red and rugged knees. Full 6'4" he strode the floor, a grizzled son of Skye, with glory in his whiskers and whiskey in his eye. With skelping stride and Scottish pride he towered above them all, And is he not a bonny sight, said Treasurer McCall. While President McConaughey was fairly daft with glee, and there was jubilation in the Scottish committee. But the dancers seemed uncertain, and they signified their doubt by dashing back to eat as fast as they had darted out. And someone raised the question twixt the coffee and the cakes, does the piper walk to get away from all the noise he makes? Then, reinforced with fancy food, they slowly trickled forth, and watched in patronizing mood the piper of the north. Proud, proud was Jock MacPhearson as he made his bagpipes skirl, and he set his sporran swinging, and he gave his kilts a whirl. And President McConaughey was jumping like a flea, and there was joy and rapture in the Scottish committee. Just let them have their saxophones with constipated squall. We're having heaven's music now, said Treasurer McCall. But the dancers waxed impatient, and they rather seemed to fret for Maloney and the jazz of his Hibernian quartet. Yet little recked the piper as he swung with head on high, lamenting with MacCrimmon on the heather hills of Skye. With Highland passion in his heart, he held the center floor. Jock MacPhearson played as he had never played before. Maloney's Irish melodists were sitting in their place, and as Maloney waited, there was wonder in his face. 'Twas sure the gorgeous music. Golly, wouldn't it be grand if he could get MacPhearson a member of his band? But the dancers moped and mumbled as around the room they sat. We paid to dance, they grumbled, but we cannot dance to that. Of course you're not denying that it's really splendid stuff, but it's mighty satisfying. Don't you think we've had enough? You've raised a pretty problem, answered Treasurer McCall, for on St. Andrew's night, ye ken, the piper rules the ball. Said President McConaughey, you've said a solemn thing. Tradition holds him sacred. He's got to have his fling. But soon, no doubt, he'll weary out. Have patience, bide a wee. That's right, respect the piper, said the Scottish committee. And so MacPhearson stalked the floor, and fast the moments flew, till half an hour went past, as irritation grew and grew. Then the dancers held a council, and with faces fiercely set, they hailed Maloney, heading his Hibernian quartet. It's long enough we've waited. Come on, Mike, play up the blues. And Maloney hesitated, but he didn't dare refuse. So banjo and piano, guitar and saxophone contended with the shrilling of the chanter and the drone. And the woman's ears were muffled, so infernal were the din. But MacPhearson was unruffled, for he knew that he would win. Then two bright boys jazzed round him, and they sought to play the clown. But MacPhearson jolted sideways, and the Sassenachs went down. And as if it was a signal, with a wild and angry roar, the gates of wrath were riven, yet MacPhearson held the floor. Aye, amid the rising tumult, still he strode with head on high, with ribbons gaily streaming, yet with battle in his eye. Amid the storm that gathered, still he stalked with Highland pride, while President and Treasurer sprang bravely to his side. And with ire and indignation that was glorious to see, around him in a body ringed the Scottish committee. Their teeth were clenched with fury, their eyes with anger blazed. "Ye manna touch the piper," was the slogan that they raised. Then blows were struck and men went down, yet mid the rising fray, MacPhearson towered in triumph, and he never ceased to play. Alas, his faithful followers were but a gallant few, and faced defeat though they fought with all the skill they knew. For President McConaughey was seen to slip and fall, and o'er his prostrate body stumbled Treasurer McCall. And as their foes with triumph roared and leaguered them about, it looked as if their little band would soon be counted out. For eyes were black and noses red, yet on that field of gore, as resolute as Highland rock, MacPhearson held the floor. Maloney watched the battle, and his brows were bleakly set, while with him paused and panted his Hibernian quartet. For sure it was an evil spite, and breaking to the heart, for Irishmen to watch a fight and not be taking part. Then suddenly on high he soared and tightened up his belt, and shall we see them crush, he roared, a brother and a Celt. A fellow artiste needs our aid. Come on, boys, take a hand. Then down into the melee dashed Maloney and his band. Now, though it was St. Andrew's ball, yet men of every race that bowed before the great god Jazz were gathered in that place. Yea, there were those who grunt, yah, yah, and those who squeak, wee, wee. Likewise Dutch, Dago, Swede, and Finn, Polack, and Portuguese. Yet like ripe grain before the gale, that national hodgepodge went down before the fury of the Irish and the Scotch. Aye, though they closed their gaping ranks and rallied to the fray, to the shamrock and the thistle went the glory of the day. You should have seen the carnage in the drooling light of dawn, yet mid the scene of slaughter Jock MacPhearson playing on. Though all lay low about him, yet he held his head on high, and piped as if he stood upon the taller crags of Skye. His face was grim as granite, no favor did he ask, though weary were his mighty lungs, and empty was his flask. And when a fallen foe wailed out, "Say, when will you have done?" MacPhearson grinned and answered, "Hoots, she's only half begun." Aye, though his hands were bloody, and his knees were gay with gore, a grampan of Highland pride, MacPhearson held the floor. And still in Yukon valleys, where the silent peaks look down, they tell of how the piper was invited up to town. And he went in kilted glory, and he piped before them all, but he wouldn't stop his piping till he busted up the ball. Of that Homeric scrap they speak, and how the fight went on, and with sally and with rally till the breaking of the dawn. And how the piper towered like a rock amid the fray, and the battle surged about him, but he never ceased to play. Aye, by the lonely campfires still they tell the story over, how the Sasquatch was vanquished, and MacPhearson held the floor. There we go, lads. How MacPhearson Held the Floor by Robert Service. Out to you, Trevor G. God bless. Parks and Rick out.